No other sport in recent history has seen such rapid growth and popularity as pickleball. Played on hard court surfaces and with very little special equipment needed, many adaptive athletes across the nation have made an instant connection to the sport. Former wheelchair tennis champion Chip Parmalee, president and founder of the United States Wheelchair Pickleball Association, currently is hosting clinics and exhibitions nationally, and Parmalee has the vision that pickleball could make its potential debut at the Paralympics in Los Angeles 2028.
I took about a 20-year break from all wheelchair sports. I quit sports in 2002, 2003, got married, had a bunch of kids, put sports on the back burner. Once they got all out of the house, I said, I'm not that beat up anymore. I think I can give this a try. So 2 years ago, I had been hearing about it for a long time. 2 years ago, I jumped in a chair and started playing. The very first day I played, I was like, oh my God, is this game great or what? So I couldn't get enough of it. So it's been 2.5 years of passion. Just love it.
Chip, pickleball seems to be a combination of a lot of different things. I mean, we got, a little racquetball, we got a little tennis, we've got, a combination of things. But this sport has really taken off in the able-bodied world. Now, here you are developing this for the adaptive sports world. What's the challenge been like, and how's it been received?
Well, I think the challenge is trying to find out where everybody's located, because I think we have a lot more players than really anybody realizes. There's just no organization to find out where everybody is playing in the country. So that's really one of the big reasons I started the association, was to get a directory of players all over the country so we could start learning where wheelchair players were playing, so they didn't always have to play with stand-up players.
It seems like a pretty natural fit for this world. I mean, hard court, hard surface. You got the small paddle, so you can move around. Good adaptability. It just seems like a really pretty perfect fit for the adaptive sports world.
You and I have both played a ton of sports in our day, Bobby, and I just, I played tennis, racquetball. All those were great sports. Pickleball is perfect. As you can see, nice small court, a couple pushes and you're in play. You don't have to be the fastest person in the world to have great skills. Once you get the skills down, the game is just perfect for wheelchair folk.
Base rules surrounding pickleball seems like you're almost playing tennis, but there seems to be a few subtle differences. So what are they?
We're playing with a wiffle ball. So we're playing with a plastic ball. We're playing with a paddle that doesn't have strings. It's not called a racket. It's called a paddle. And this is a thermoform with raw carbon on each side. So sometimes you have to hit it a little harder than you would hit a tennis ball. First time I went out and played, I tried to hit a drop shot, and I went to hit a drop shot, and that wiffle ball went straight down to the ground. I was like, okay, well, that's not going to work. So yeah, there are some subtle differences that you have to figure out, because you're hitting a plastic ball with a thermoform paddle as opposed to a tennis ball with strings where you can just rip it. In tennis, you could rush the net and hit volleys from right on top of the net. Pickleball, they've put out what's called a no volley zone. It's 7 foot from the net to the no volley zone is a 7-foot line. And if the ball is in the air, you cannot step into the no volley zone, or commonly called the kitchen. So if you step in that in the air, dead ball. It's either the other team's point or a side out. So you cannot step into that in the air to hit a volley. You can hit it in the air if you're behind the kitchen or the no volley zone, but you cannot enter to hit a ball in the air. So it has to bounce. Once it bounces, you can go in. So if somebody hits a dink and it just rolls over, you can step into the kitchen to hit the ball, but you cannot step in while it's in the air.
With tennis, everyone likes to talk about the ace, how hard the ball can be hit, how fast the ball can be hit. That doesn't seem to be quite as important with pickleball. With pickleball, it seems to be, just watching what I've seen, it's a lot about the volley and placement of the ball.
Yeah, it really is. You'll find that the advanced players get into a touch game. So it's all about getting to the kitchen or to the net and controlling the net. And all the pros, they play a soft game where they're just dinking it over, not putting it past the kitchen where their opponents can rip it. So they're just playing defense, defense, defense. And as soon as an opponent pops the ball up, you rip it. And then it's done. So yeah, it is a very strategic game in the fact that it's not as easy to score. But if you're I play guys that have great serves with spin. And a buddy of mine hits a serve that hits here and jumps into the side. And even with 2 bounces, it doesn't bounce the second time because it goes into the netting. So you're flying in there, you feel like a fish out of water because you can't get to the ball. So if you could develop a good serve or a great serve, if you get 4 or 5 easy points in a game to 11 serving, that'll make a big difference.
So the prospect for growth, have you seen, on the interest level, is it blossoming, or are you getting, has it grown beyond your expectations so far or to your expectation?
Not yet, but it's getting there. The great thing about it is we know pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the United States. I think there's 38 million people playing pickleball. The cool thing is I got invited to this. I'm not a vet, but I got invited to this to try to showcase what we're doing. I think last year in Portland at the Vet Games, they had 77 wheelchair pickleball players. This year they had 129 wheelchair pickleball players sign up.
All right, Chip, so the obvious part of pickleball in a wheelchair is you've got a wheelchair. I see a couple of differences between that chair and, say, a tennis chair or a basketball chair. You've got your feet tucked back. You've got anti-tips in the back, good for serve, good for protection for not going over. You've got maximum camber or angle in the wheel. Explain what the chair does for the sport and how it helps be successful within the sport.
Yeah, as we know, there's a ton of different chairs for a ton of different sports. This is basically a match point. It's a RGK chair, and it's really a tennis chair that this has been adjusted for pickleball, and the fact that I'm more dropped than a tennis chair. Nowadays, tennis chairs are sitting higher so they get big serves. Big serve is not crucial in pickleball. Quickness and speed is more important. So, I do have 18 degrees of camber, but I also have a very tippy center of gravity. So it's much more mobile than what I used to play in. So between that 18-degree camber, I tuck my feet back so I can get started, and I'm not trying to hit myself in the knees because I'm playing with a paddle. And it's easier to hit a forehand because I'm clear, but a backhand, there's knees in the way. So if I can get my knees tucked back, I'm better off. So that's kind of why I play it that way.
Keeping the chair tippy and having all that camber, that increases pivot.
Exactly.
So give us an idea just how tippy it is just by giving us a little lean.
Well, and that's the cool thing about the anti-tip. It's not going to be that tippy because I only have this much room now. So if I had more play, then it would really affect me starting, because if I went to start and my anti-tip was 2 inches off the ground, I would lose momentum by the front end popping up as I'm trying to go. With it so close to the ground now, I really don't lose much energy when I go to push because it just pops a little bit. So that took a while to try to figure out what would work best for that. I did have it higher and I was flip-flopping around, and so now I kind of got it dialed in to where it feels pretty comfortable about where I am.
Okay, so super high pressure tires, probably maximally pumped up. I bet you got probably 120 psi in there.
I usually run 100, but it would be better to go higher.
Sure. And in the front, you've got the rollerblade wheels. Everything about this chair is designed for speed on the court.
Exactly. And really, I mean, the court is 44 foot long, 20 foot wide. The kitchen is 7 foot on each side. So there's 15 feet behind the kitchen. So you're not really covering a ton of space. So you have to be quick around that space. So you're starting behind the baseline and you're moving up to the kitchen line to be offensive. So you're really moving up 15 feet to be offensive. So you want to get there as quick as possible. And as you noticed, there's some pretty good moves that got to be made when guys are popping it. And as they get the touch and can paint this area and go this area, it really creates havoc for you trying to be able to react to where they're putting the ball.
And then lastly, I noticed same thing with tennis, basketball, and so many of the other sports, becoming one with the chair includes the ratcheting device that you have in your lap.
Exactly. And for pickleball, you have to be strapped down, and you're supposed to have a strap on the back here so that you can't use your feet to stop the chair. My feet aren't going anywhere, but there are guys that are single amputee or double amputees that if they don't strap, they can crawl up on a hip and get an unfair advantage. So a lot of the guys that cannot do that feel uncomfortable with people taking an unfair advantage. So if they're able to walk and move, they have to be strapped down. Well, they have to be strapped down anyway.
And I'm just noticing just behind you, we're seeing someone, a woman who evidently must have some, hand dexterity problems. And essentially you take care of that by just go ahead and, creating grip by giving her a wrap.
Exactly. So we're going to do the same thing that they did in quad tennis. End up if their mobility is impaired, we'll do something to get the paddle on their hand so they can continue to play. We're going to do everything we can to grow it.